From the day that we were born, many of us have gotten the message that there's just something wrong about us. Maybe it's original sin, or maybe it's as simple as that mom and dad wanted a boy and we turned out to be a girl. Or maybe we're just another burden in a family that could already barely carry the weight that was on its back. It happens to each of us individually. It's very specific to our own lives, but it's also just a general part, it seems, of being alive. There's something wrong with us. It may be so prevalent that we don't even notice it's there. It's under the surface, just an underlying feeling that feels like the way life is. There's something bad about me. There's something not right. There's something that people don't like. And so, as human beings, just trying to survive in a social world, in a world where we need each other, we need our parents, we need our families, we try to change. We try to do better. We try not to cry, or we learn to stuff it when we know that mom doesn't like it because mom never had anybody listen to her cry. We try to do better. We try to smile because we learn that that's more acceptable, more what gets us what we want. We learn that when we're mad, it's better not to tell anyone, and it sure as hell is better not to let it show. We learn this intricate set of rules about what's okay and what's not okay, and how to be and how it should be, and it can all be changing, and it can all be confusing, and it can be different with different people and in different situations, but we try like hell to figure it out, to accommodate ourselves to this craziness where it's not okay to be whatever we are. It's not okay to be as happy as we are because we see that everyone around us isn't happy. So we shut down our joy, our enthusiasm for life. We shut down our anger. We shut down our love. We shut down our grief, and so we become depressed before our bodies are even fully formed. We're trying to figure out how to be, how to find our way in this craziness. It's a hell of a system, trying to figure out how to be when all of our natural instincts, all our natural ways of expressing ourselves are squashed or judged or laughed at or swatted out of us, whatever it is. And then we're expected to figure out how to live our lives without a compass. We're expected to figure out how to live in this world, to build relationships, to be in relationship with someone, to raise a family, all these things. How do we figure this out when we've learned to mistrust what's real and true for each of us in any given moment? And then I've been talking about politics and the situation in our world lately. How do we figure out how to be with each other as a community, as a culture? How do we make sense when we see these crazy energies going back and forth, people who are furious and we don't know what they're so furious about, and we layer upon layer of, well, they're crazy or there's something wrong with them. And we're trying to figure out things out through all these layers of simply not knowing how to be true to ourselves. I had to learn this, how fake I had become, how unreal I was when my life was unceremoniously blown up or burned up through my own set of mistakes. I'm not going to go into that here today, but I've talked about it extensively on other videos here. I had to face all the ways that I had stopped trusting my own compass, my own feelings, my own instincts, my own intuition, my own sense of what was right and wrong. And I had to see and really look at and come to terms with how fake, how unreal I had become. In this web of unreality and confusion and repression, it's a radical act to simply be real, whatever that may be. I grew up in a family where you were supposed to be nice all the time, and then things just kind of erupted in explosions here and there, and then we tried to pretend that it had never happened, or that it was somebody else's fault, or something like that. I learned to come to terms with these energies in myself. I learned where I was mad to let myself be mad. Of course, I had to pick and choose who and where to do that, but I could tell it was no longer working. It was no longer even possible to repress that. It was no longer possible to pretend that I was okay in situations where I wasn't okay. It was no longer possible to pretend that I liked or could be with people who were toxic in ways that did a great disservice to me and just didn't mesh with where I was. So I learned slowly and gradually, sometimes, yes, explosively, as people who are close to me know all too well. I learned to trust what's real. I learned to trust that anger. I learned to trust and allow grief. I learned to notice that I had this constant anxiety about everything I did. Was I going to do something wrong? Was I going to be okay? Was I going to offend someone? Was I going to get lost when I got in the car? Just anxiety, nameless anxiety about whatever it was. I learned to be more open about that. I made a video yesterday talking about politics in which I let my anger show. And one of the friends of the channel made a comment saying, "Boy, I've never seen you get that mad." And I said, "Yep, just letting it show here." In a culture of so much repression, so much denial of our simple humanness, so much denial of our feelings, of our intuitions, of our desires, of our joy, of our sexuality, of our wonder, of our innocence. How can we know what to do? So I've been talking about politics, and maybe it is useful and maybe it isn't, but underneath it all, what I've found to be the simplest and most radical and most profound way of meeting the world is simply to be real. What is true for me in this moment? How do I feel? What is my natural response to an interaction, to a situation at work, to a political argument? What is my natural reaction? And to learn to trust in what's real, to trust that if I get angry, maybe there's a reason. Maybe that allowing that to express will allow some buried truth to come forth and become more clear to me. If I'm down or depressed or sad, I don't try to charge over the top of that. I don't try to make it go away. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. And this is not to judge anyone who does, but I want to know what this is, what's there. Because I find that in being real to whatever it is, that always takes me to a deeper, quieter, truer place within myself. It's radical to simply be real, to simply speak up. My wife was facing a situation at her job where there's conflict among staff and people aren't doing a good job, and nobody wanted to address it. Coworkers wouldn't address it with each other. Supervisors wouldn't address it with the staff. So she spoke up. She simply spoke up and began to address it with people. And people respect her for that. They respect that they know she's working hard. They respect that she's being real in a place where others are afraid to, or it doesn't feel safe to. It's a profound and simple and liberating act to be simply real, no matter what's going on. It doesn't mean that being real gets you what you want all the time, or makes the situation go the way you want. It doesn't mean that at all. You may make people mad. You may even lose people. But what it does give is the beginning of the end of that inner conflict that says, oh, I shouldn't be like this. This is what I feel, but I shouldn't feel that way. This is what I want to say, but I shouldn't say that. It begins to end that inner conflict. It begins to bring us in alignment with this truth that's all around us in nature. This simple allowance of whatever is true in any given moment to be there. It's not about being good. It's not about being true. It's not about being honest. It's not about being right. It's simply about being real. Because when we're real, the real exposes, reveals itself to us. When we're fake, we're in an almost impossible tangle of confusion and chaos. When we're real, everything in life tends to get more real in response. And then there's a kind of alignment, a kind of peacefulness, and a kind of freedom that shows up in deep and unexpected ways. Good luck in your own process of being real, of trusting those feelings and voices and intuitions and strengths and passions in you that you learn to repress. Welcome them. Invite them. Don't pressure them. Invite them. Let them begin to come out and see the unexpected resolutions and peacefulness and joy this can bring to life. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy these videos, please Do like and subscribe. Do feel free to comment. I'm hearing from more and more of you all the time. I'm grateful for that, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.